Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the Grade 3 Fairground Stakes on Saturday at Fairgrounds. It's the Risen Star Day undercard, this one going as race 12. Do be aware if you want to get some PPs for this weekend, heading into President's Day, racing right on through Monday. Take advantage of this President's Day sale, 15% off everything in the DRF store. Just use that coupon code PRES25 at shop.drf.com. Mike, we've got 10 runners entered in this Fairgrounds on the turf. We hope they're on the turf. There's some rain predicted at different points throughout this week in Louisiana, but looks a little bit better than it did heading into LeCompte Day when that stakes scheduled for the turf got washed off the grass. We're hopeful that these Fairgrounds entrants are a little more fortunate. And the number 2 Gigante did win the off the turf Colonel Bradley that I was referring to, and he's a horse that really handles any surface. He's very versatile, so he looks like a horse that is likely to vie for favoritism once again, but this came up as maybe a slightly tougher spot.
Yeah, I think it did come up a little bit tougher. I mean, several of these horses, wanted to run in that Bradley on turf. Some of them stayed in, a few of them scratched out. So it's a solid field here, David. I've no argument with Gigante maybe being the favorite in here. He's just a rock solid horse who always shows up. Maybe a little question about 9 furlongs for him, but other than that, he's just rock solid.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Fairground Stakes, and not exactly sure who is necessarily going to be on the lead here, Mike. I mean, the number 4, I'd Rather Be Blessed, has run some of his best races when he's able to control the pace up front. They didn't ride him the most aggressively in his last turf race. I think that was probably a mistake, so I would anticipate that Ben Curtis is going to be more intent on getting him to the front end in here, and horses like Taking Candy and Higgins Boat, they've got tactical speed, but I think if I'd Rather Be Blessed shows initiative, they'd be content to rate.
Yeah, I thought the 4 was most likely to make the lead in here, but we'll see how it all plays out. I think the good news regarding this pace projector, at least for the morning line favorite Gigante, is he's just so tactical, David. I mean, they have him pretty far back here at the pace call, but this horse gets good trips in his races. He'll be forward if this pace isn't fast.
Let's start off our discussion of the contenders with the number 1, What Say Thee, a horse that loves to visit the winner's circle. He's done that in 6 of his last 9 starts, won 3 in a row, I should say, at one point. And Mike, he's coming off one of his better performances last time at Churchill Downs in an optional claiming race where he made this wide move off the quarter pole to get the lead at mid-stretch, battles all the way to the wire. He's able to hold on to win by a head with a 97 buyer, the best that he's produced in his career. He's one of those that was entered in the Colonel Bradley. The connection decided to scratch when that race came off the turf. No surprise there. But now coming back in this spot off a bit of a layoff, it is recent form. He's a major contender.
Yeah, recent form's really good. Maker claimed this horse for 35,000 and went 5 for 8 with him last year. Just ran one good race after another. This is a little bit of a class test for him. Obviously, he's got to prove it against some better competition here. But this horse has been good. He's been tactical in his races too. He's not a one-run closer, but he can sit and make one run. He's got a great post position here. He likes to make it close at the end of his races, David, but he's no hanger. I mean, he fights at the end of those races, and he almost always comes out on top.
The number 2 is that morning line favorite, Gigante. And Mike, you just have to love what this horse has done over his career. As you mentioned, he's so versatile, not just with regard to his running style. He runs on any surface. He's won, I think, 7 stakes now in his career. A couple of them have been in off the turf situations where he's run almost as well on the dirt as he has on the turf. So you can rely on him to show up just about every time. From a natural ability standpoint, I don't know if I view him as having any significant edge over this field, but at least you kind of know what you're going to get from him, and I think that's his strength. He's gotten very good trips in each of his last 2 victories, but I guess you can kind of rely on him to work out another good trip here.
Yeah, those are the things to like about him. He's very, very reliable. He's no standout in this race. He just has no edge on this field at all. And again, I sort of feel like the longer you go with him, maybe that sort of takes a little bit away from him. I'm not really sure 9 furlongs and beyond is what this horse really wants, but he's just really good, David. He's going to show up in here. He's going to get another good trip, and he'll run his race. If you want to take a shorter kind of price on him, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with it, but I wouldn't be afraid to look for other horses in here.
Maybe one of those other horses for a lot of people could be the number 3, Unit Economics, coming in for the powerful Chad Brown stable, getting Flavian Pratt to ride. He's trying Stakes Company for the first time, so he is the new face in this field at this kind of level. We'll take a look at his last race when he just barely lost a head bob at Gulfstream Park, and watching this replay, it's kind of hard to believe he does lose this race because it looks in real time like he gets up at the wire. Got a wide trip this day, moved about 5 or 6 wide coming to the quarter pole you saw there. So lost a little bit of ground, but he gets there at the end, just can't quite push on by the long shot winner, Eldest Son. And Mike, this is a horse that has run consistently well over his past several starts, but he typically leaves himself something to do in the stretch of his races, so typically makes it close at the end. And I can't say that I've really seen that much progression over his recent races, and I think he's going to need a step forward to beat this field.
I feel the same exact way about him. I mean, he's a good finisher. I like that about him. He does really kick through the stretch of his races. That replay we just watched, so he didn't break great in that race and sort of wound up maybe even further back. But, you know, he collared that horse and somehow missed the bob in there. That's not the first time that's happened to him either. He's missed bobs before. I don't know. Can he win here? Yeah, it's Pratt and Brown, and he's facing better horses there, and you're not going to get a great price on him. I just kind of wanted to use other horses.
The number 4, I'd Rather Be Blessed, lost to Gigante in each of the last couple of starts on turf in the Diliberto Memorial, where they inexplicably decided not to use his speed that day and rated him in a pocket behind horses, and Gigante kind of got the jump on him. And then last time out, they went back to using front-running tactics, but that was an off-the-turf race, and he's a horse that can run on the dirt, but he's not quite as good on the dirt, and he wasn't able to take full advantage of the slow pace and hold on at the end. Like, I can see a scenario where he gets things very comfortably up front and is able to back down this pace a little bit. I just don't know if he's quite as good as some others in this field.
Yeah, I just didn't think that he was, David. I mean, I think their only chance is to go to the lead here and just see if they can somehow get away with easy fractions and take him all the way. I'm not afraid of getting wired by this horse.
The number 5 is Relámpago Verde, who I think is an interesting up-and-comer coming into this race. He's only run on the turf 3 times in his career, and Mike, I like all of those races when I watch them back. He actually only went a conventional route distance of a mile once on the turf. That was when he first got on it and upset today's rival Unit Economics at 26-1 at Keeneland. I didn't think Unit Economics had a big excuse to lose that race. Relámpago Verde just dug in and held him off to the wire. His other 2 turf races are marathon distances around 3 turns. I don't know if he really wants to go that far, and I actually think he ran a lot better than it might look on paper in that Saratoga loss, where he was kind of 2 to 3 wide around the track in a race that was totally dominated by horses that rode the rail. And Mike, since then, he's come back with a couple of races rained off the turf where he's competed on the dirt, and they're the 2 best dirt races of his career. So it feels like he's really moving in the right direction for the start. Yeah, he needs a big step forward to win this race, but I think he's going to be a decent price.
Yeah, I saw all the same things you did in here. This horse is really, really interested in here. It's obviously a pretty good test for him, but I would just say if you're worried about this horse moving up in class, I'm with you on his Saratoga race. I thought he ran really, really well there, going 11 furlongs. And the 1-2 finishers of that race, they're quality graded stakes horses. I mean, that was an allowance race on paper. It was a stakes horse, though, on the track. Those horses are really good. This horse held his own.
Yeah, Battle of Normandy, who beat him by just over 3 lengths, is the same horse that beat Gigante by a few lengths in the River City a few starts later. So definitely looks like a horse that could class up based on that race. The number 6 is Money Supply. And Mike, it's just kind of hard for me to build the case for this horse at this point in his career. He got really good for a period of time back in late 2023 to early 2024 when he upset that stakes event at Fairgrounds in the mine shaft, but that was on the dirt. He's tried the turf 3 times. His first victory over it, I suppose, puts him on the fringes of being competitive in a race like this, but his other 2 turf races weren't good at all, and his form since then has been highly dubious.
Yeah, the big problem for me with this horse is the last 3 starts, where I just sort of feel like he's supposed to run better than that. There was a part of me, David, he's going to be a big price in here, and I really want to dress him up a little bit because the only turf win, and it was on yielding turf, so who knows, but I thought he ran really well in there. And it's not like he got a perfect trip. He got a good one, but it wasn't perfect, and he really ran. And so is that the race that I want to judge him off of when you consider the other 2 turf races? One of them is a grade 1 at Saratoga, where he totally blew the start. He was never going to win anyway, and then he blows the start of that race. And the other one's at Kentucky Downs. I don't care about that race either. I don't know. I really want to dress this horse up at a big price, realizing that maybe he's just not good enough and he'll finish last in this race.
The number 7, Dean Martini, for me, was even harder to make a case for in here. He's run well on the turf, but has done so mostly over longer distances than this and seems to produce his best results when he can make the lead. I just don't see how he's quick enough to get to the front over I'd Rather Be Blessed if that one gets an aggressive ride out of the gate.
Yeah, I didn't see it with this horse either. I mean, I do think their best chance, he's another one, their best chance is just to get aggressive here maybe and see what happens. I never really particularly liked him as a dirt horse, David, and I don't really like him as a turf horse either.
The number 8, Taking Candy, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes favorite in this race. He's a horse that seems to be very popular with the bettors, and he does get Irad Ortiz aboard for this race. Mike, he was not able to fend off What Say Thee in his last start at Churchill Downs, where What Say Thee kind of blitzed the field at the quarter pole and ran right by him to the outside. And Taking Candy didn't have traffic trouble or anything like that, just couldn't quite make the move at the same time. But he got to the outside of that runner, was finishing well across the wire. He also put in a good effort two back in the Bernard Baruch, where he took a lot of money that day trying Stakes Company and ran just a length behind Running B, who has since and prior to that proven to be a really nice turf horse for trainer Chad Brown. So I think Taking Candy certainly classes up against this field. I just wondered if I was going to get a fair price on him.
Yeah, I agree with you too. It feels like he won't offer a lot of value in here, and I'm still wondering exactly how good he is. I mean, I'm not going to knock his form overall. He's another horse who gets good trips too, so that's sort of a feather in his cap. But I struggle to sort of locate the one race he's run so far that makes me want to bet him against this field at some kind of short price.
The number 9, Higgins Boat, was in a blanket finish that involved today's rival. I'd rather be blessed at Churchill Downs 3-back. That was an allowance race won by Boyce, who came up the rail, whereas Higgins Boat was a little wider. They took the blinkers off, whereas his first 3 turf starts had come with the blinkers on. And I really liked the way that he seemed to settle in behind horses in that fairgrounds race 2-back, where he just kind of came through between horses at the top of the stretch and really finished powerfully to put away an overmatched field. And Mike, they ran him in the woodchopper last time, even after that race came off the turf, and that was the best dirt race of his career. He was not competitive with the winner in that spot, but at least ran a speed figure that was in line with his turf races. So there's an argument that this newly turned 4-year-old is just really starting to turn the corner, and he's relatively unexposed on the turf.
Yeah, he's another horse who's getting a little class test here, but this horse is pretty good. I think what I like most about him, David, too, is he's super handy, man. He gets really good trips in his races. He puts himself right into position every time, and he still can finish through the stretch. The one time they went the 9 furlongs with him there at Hawthorne in the Hawthorne Derby, I mean, he got run down from behind that day, but I did not think the distance got him beat that day. I thought he actually ran really well, so I'm not worried about 9 furlongs for this horse.
And then closing out the field is the number 10, Warrior Johnny. We'll see where he ultimately does compete. He is cross-centered in the mine shaft. The race before this, that's on the dirt. This one, if he goes here and stays on the turf, he would be getting back to the turf for the 4th time in his career. He tried the turf 3 starts back at Churchill Downs, Mike, where he was beaten by some pretty good horses in Wadsworth and Chasing the Crown. Got a wide trip that day around the far turn, but didn't really kick with those horses in the stretch. I can't say that I love his turf form, and I think he would need to be a little better on the turf than his recent dirt races to beat this field.
Yeah, I didn't want to bet him on the grass. I mean, if you want to tell me that the race 3-back was fine against a good field and he didn't get a great trip, I wouldn't argue too hard. I also didn't think that he ran that well.
Let's throw up our picks for this grade 3 fairground stakes. Mike, I think we're landing in different directions here. You're going with the horse on the rail, the number 1, What Say Thee, who's looking to make it 7 of his last 10 starts with victories.
I just like this spot for this horse, David. He's in really good form. He's got a great post on the inside. I think there's a good trip coming for him in here. And I really like the form that he's in right now.
Yeah, I just didn't trust too many of the favorites in here, and I wanted to find some interesting prices. I liked Higgins Boat when this race was the Colonel Bradley, and he got rained off the turf and scratched that day. But I'm going to land on the number 5, Relampico Verde this time. Just a horse that I think is really improving as of late. I like his turf races. I think they're even better than they appear on paper, and I think he's going to be a bigger price. Both these top 2 picks for me are 8-1 on the morning line. I think Relampico Verde is going to be a much bigger price than that. So 5-9-8-2 for me and 1-6-9-3 for Mike in the grade 3 fairgrounds on Saturday at Fairgrounds. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.